What's up? My name is Dr. James Nall. Today we're going to go over 3 ways to get rid of your bloating for good, once and for all. I'm a chiropractor. I have advanced training in functional medicine. I used to practice functional medicine and I dropped it years ago because I figured out it doesn't actually get to any root cause. It doesn't actually heal anyone. It's just a very expensive way to feel like you're making progress, only to wake up and realize that I still have these issues. I'm still not really healed, but I do have this nice, pretty pantry full of supplements and all these test results. But what good did that do me? So now I use medical medium. That's how I healed myself. And I have a coaching service where I coach others on how to get amazing transformative results using medical medium information. But I also realize that not everyone is going to be willing or able to sign up for a coaching program. So I do want to put some value out here for others who are trying to DIY this. And sometimes you can get some amazing results on your own. A lot of times people get knocked off track. That's why I do the coaching. It's because I've seen so many people fall short of their goals. And it's very sad to see. I do not like to see that. So if you do need some help along the way, reach out to me. The coaching program is amazing. Tremendous value there if that's something that you're open to. But let's get into today's video, bloating. So look, a huge thing for any health condition is like, if you want to reverse, if you want to get rid of something, to give yourself a real shot, you better be clear on what actually is causing that symptom or condition in the first place. Otherwise, you are just throwing stuff up against the wall, hoping that something makes you feel less symptomatic. And for some people, they'll consider that a big win. But guys, we can do way better than that. So when it comes to bloating, there's 2 things that actually produce that bloating sensation, that discomfort. Number 1 is going to be food that's rotting away in your gut. Gross, right? But that's what really happens. So undigested fats and proteins that drop into your intestinal tract, and they rot away like a dead animal on the side of the road. And as they do that, they give off a toxic ammonia gas. And that gas can expand, that can create pressure, that can create discomfort all on its own. So that's one common cause of bloating. The other thing that typically is happening as well is that you will have pathogens. The most common culprit is going to be strep bacteria in your gut, that it feeds on certain foods that you're probably still eating, or it can feed off this rotting food, or sometimes other toxic chemicals that are in your system, in your liver. It feeds off of those, and that gives off a toxic waste product as well. So a lot of people are going to be dealing with both of these. They're going to have undigested foods that are giving off a toxic ammonia gas, plus they're going to have pathogens such as strep bacteria in the gut that are giving off a toxic waste product, creating expansion and discomfort. There's your bloating. Okay, guys, so we're going to work backwards from this. How do we, number 1, not have rotting food in our intestinal tract? That's a high priority. Priority, number 2, right up there with it, is how do we kill off these bugs that don't belong in our gut? We got to get these bugs out of the gut. If you can do that to a sufficient degree, your bloating is going to go away. That's how this works. So let's work here. So digestive acids are the reason why you would have rotting food in your intestinal tract. Or to be more clear, weak digestive acids are the precise reason that you would have rotting food in your gut. So what does that look like? So the main digestive acid that we're talking about is hydrochloric acid that your stomach produces. And that serves 2 main functions. The first of which is to break down proteins in foods when you eat them. So if you eat a food that has a dense amount of proteins, whether plant-based, animal-based, whatever, hydrochloric acid's job is to start to break down those proteins. The other main function of HCl is to kill off pathogens, including strep bacteria in the gut. It should wipe those suckers out, right? The other thing that we're going to be dealing with is bile that is produced by the liver. And bile's main job is to disperse and break down fats. So if you eat any piece of animal protein, animal meat, whatever, fish, steak, chicken, you name it, all of those are fat dense and protein dense foods. So you're calling on your liver and your stomach to be in tip top working order to be able to properly break down those foods. And for most people over the decades, because so many people eat animal protein 3 meals a day and snack on it in between, their digestive acids, their hydrochloric acid, their bile in their liver, they become weaker and less effective at doing their jobs over time. That's ultimately what leads to this food that's dropping into your intestinal tract and not being able to being broken down, and it turns into this rotting, putrefying mass that gives off this toxic ammonia gas. Now, there are other factors, because there are certainly other things that can have a negative impact on your liver and therefore decrease the potency of the bile. And honestly, that's kind of what sets off that whole chain reaction, is that the liver takes the hit. And again, a high protein, high fat diet that almost everyone is on, whether they know it or not, that's ultimately playing a major role in everyone's liver health or lack thereof. That weakens bile production because your liver can't keep taking that hit time after time after time after time and continue all of its over 2,000 functions at a significant level. And bile is one of the things, the strength of the bile is one of the things that takes a hit along the way. So that weak bile sets off this chain reaction where when the bile gets weaker, your stomach knows it has to produce more HCl to try to pick up some of the slack, to try to make up for some of that. That can't keep up at that pace for prolonged amounts of time. That eventually burns out as well. So we have to figure out ways to not put so much pressure on hydrochloric acid and bile from the liver every time that you eat. And so what does that equate to? You're not going to want to eat animal protein all throughout the day. It's very, very tough to make any progress in healing anything if you're not willing to at least be open to making that shift. Doesn't mean you're going plant-based, doesn't mean you're going vegan, nothing like that, but you just have to be open to dropping that back. All right, so there's 3 things that you can do to get rid of your bloating for good. The first thing is to cut out the offending foods. So this is a big category, but these foods can either be foods that stress out your liver or they're feeding pathogens. So what are some examples of those? So foods that stress out the liver are going to be any fat-dense food, even if it's a healthy fat. We already talked about animal fat. We know that's an issue in this. But even plant-based fats, that can be a stress on the liver. And then there are foods that feed pathogens like strep bacteria. So what are those? Well, there are some fat-dense foods like dairy. Dairy is one that feeds strep bacteria. So that would be an offender food. And then we also have things like wheat or gluten. That also feeds pathogens like strep bacteria. So those are ones that you're going to have to look at and figure out, what do I need to do to move away from those foods? That's job number 1. And guys, everyone's totally different in terms of the exact potency of their HCl and their bile, the exact combo of pathogens that they have in their gut. So you might feel great results just cutting out offenders. You might feel great doing just one of these. You might need to do 2 of these. You might need to do all 3 of these. Everyone's totally different, and you don't know until you just get started. But this is a great place to start, is to cut out the offending foods. I have other videos that goes more in depth on what those are and what you want to really look out for there. The other thing, number 2, is we want to add in healing foods. So what is that going to look like? Well, there's foods like celery juice that strengthen your hydrochloric acid. They strengthen the potency of that. They help to cleanse out and rejuvenate your liver, which is ultimately going to lead to a stronger bile. There are foods that have great antiviral and antibacterial properties like fruits and potatoes and herbs and vegetables. So those would be appropriate to bring in here to heal. And a big thing that people will say is like, well, when I eat fruit or when I eat lettuce, that actually makes my bloating worse, right? Super common. And that definitely can happen in the beginning because these are cleansing and healing foods. So they're doing exactly what they're designed to do, which is go into the system and scrub out that old waste, whether it's food or pathogens or whatever's in your intestinal tract. And if there's a high degree of toxic waste in your gut and you bring in these cleansing foods, yeah, you can have some discomfort. So then you have to kind of figure out where you're going to sit with like, all right, well, maybe I need to kind of take baby steps here and, just work on cutting out offenders and very slowly bring in the healing foods. It's a great thing that we do in coaching is help people kind of figure out exactly what that might look like for them. But you can also, try to go that route on your own and figure out where you sit. But don't get scared off by the fact that some fruits or vegetables might make your bloating worse in the beginning. Those are the very foods that are going to have the biggest positive impact. You just might need to bring those in at a different pace than what you thought. And then there are deeper cleanses. And this is basically where you just amplify cutting out offenders and you amplify adding in healers, and there's healing foods, and there's different levels and there's different ways to do these deeper cleanses. Again, that's something that I go into my coaching services, but you can also kind of figure that out on your own. And that might be necessary for some period of time. And sometimes people need to do multiple rounds of these deeper cleanses, plus, really mind their P's and Q's on cutting out troublemaker foods and adding in healing foods to get to where they want to go. But again, everyone's going to be totally different. I can't tell anyone like, oh, hey, you just need to cut out 2 foods and add in these 6 foods. Everyone's a snowflake in this regard. So you just have to get going with what needs to be done and figure out where you're going to end up. So that's the formula. That is how you can end your bloating for good. It absolutely is possible. You can get there. It's just probably not going to look exactly how you imagined it looking. But again, totally doable. If you need help, reach out to me. I love helping others kind of figure out their roadmap and how they can actually win, because you can absolutely win with your health once you understand the framework and once you get your mindset and your perspective shift to one that's going to serve you and not hold you back from doing what you need to do. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So reach out to me if you need help there. All right, that's it for today.